see much in the motion.
Saw you, Stephen, tearing along there on your bike. Yeah, we're live in Heartlands in Pretoria, in the world. Tēnā koutou katoa, no mai haere mai ki tēnei hui, ko te poari o Waitai mātou, ki katiaki mo ihi kai, o tākoro, ku harake ki nui, mea o pāwaho, mo tangata o te rāwhiti o te tahi ko auhia mana o te poari o Waitai ko Pumakman ahau. My name is Pumakman, I'm the chairperson of the Community Board. Thank you very much everyone for being here and online too. If you'd like to join us for our karakia timatanga. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he aki ana te atakura, e tio, e hoka, e ahoka, sipe, mo ki ora. All right. So we have no apologies. I think I might have apologies for lateness from Councillor Johansson. And apologies for early departure from Jackie Simons. And we have Alex Hewison here online. One of the coastal members. Would someone like to move that those apologies be accepted? Moved by Jackie, seconded by Kelly. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Do we have any declarations of interest to make? No declarations of interest. We move to the confirmation of previous minutes, 9th of March 2026. Moved by Greg, seconded by me. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. So now we move to public forum. Public forum is 5 minutes for members of the public to come and talk to us about anything they like. So between this and deputations which come afterwards, this is not about issues that are on the agenda. We can't make any decisions today based on forum. So first public forum we have is the fire engineering research. We have Paul Horn and Tony Abu. Who'd like to join us at the end of the table. Now, for to turn the mic on, you'll see a picture of a person with sound waves coming out of their face. Well, that's you with the sound waves coming out of your face. Okay.
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Paul Horn, and I'm a lecturer at the University of Canterbury.
And my name is Dr. Anthony Abu. I'm an associate professor of structural fire engineering at the University of Canterbury.
So as Tony mentioned, one of the areas that we research is structural fire engineering, or the performance of buildings in fire. And one of the very topical things at the moment is timber buildings, because they offer a lot of sustainability benefits. But one of the associated risks that comes with that, of course, because timber burns, is making sure that these buildings stand up for an appropriate length of time for people to escape and for firefighters to do their job to fight the fire. So we can do a lot of work numerically, analysing things in the computer on the small and medium scale at our laboratory at the University of Canterbury. But to really prove that the buildings will stand up to the real fires that they will face, we need to undertake full-scale research. And that's been the case for steel, composite and concrete structures, with a number of very large structural fire experiments that have been undertaken in Europe. One of the things that we'd like to do is to undertake these full-scale experiments here in New Zealand to show that to enable more of these buildings to be built in New Zealand and to enable better and more efficient use of timber structures, both here in New Zealand and overseas. And so we've engaged with lots of stakeholders, including FENS, other engineering companies, and the building sides of councils and MB, and there's a strong need for the research that we'd like to do. And what we're looking for is a place where we can undertake these experiments and people to work with who are supportive and see the value. And so we're at the very early stage, and what we're looking for ultimately is a place to undertake these experiments, which involve at a fundamental level building a large structure outside and then undertaking a series of fire experiments. And one of the options that we've identified is as a potential would be a location within the red zone, which is within your area. And so we're here today to introduce ourselves, what we'd like to do, and to understand if there is appetite for us to continue exploring this option, in which case we can bring a lot more detailed plans and details along and discuss through some of your concerns and questions that you may have, or whether there is not the appetite for this and we should continue our inquiries elsewhere.
Just off the bat, would you mind turning on one of your microphones? Thank you. Just because if they're all picking up the same sound, it creates feedback. Yeah, we've only got the 5 minutes today. I think that the concern that off the bat that I'd have is around the cleanup afterwards, and also that community is aware of what's going on, because you can imagine that there's a whole bunch of smoke coming out, that people will be worried about that and around toxic fumes and that kind of thing. The other thing is that we don't have governance over the red zone, as I'm sure you're aware. There's a red zone governance group that does that. And so we would really be alongside it. I mean, I think if there was a briefing, it might be useful to have it as a joint briefing with us and them, for instance.
Okay.
We've only got a few minutes for questions, so but I think Kelly and then Jan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a process question to start with. Are we able to refer this gentleman to the red zone?
They're already working with them.
They're already working with them, I believe. I think we can refer them to staff for further advice.
Yeah, my question, gentlemen, is how big a building are you talking about, to get the kind of results that you're looking for?
So just in our lab at the University of Canterbury, we are able to look at sort of like a two-story building, but kind of scale down both in terms of the area, and we might have to look at even reducing the heights and that kind of thing. But to make what we're doing here relevant, we will need to look at actual size, normal size buildings. So we're thinking up to about 3 stories, where we will not burn the entire 3 stories. We'll provide compartmentation in several parts of the building and then see how it performs within those. But the research is in need of looking at larger areas and close to normal size structures as much as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
We're over the 5 minutes now, so I think the board evidently would like quite a bit more information about it. So I think that the next step is to work with staff to provide us with more information with the briefing, and hopefully at the same time as the red zone governance group.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean the intention, I think everybody supports in providing, making it easy to build wooden structures in New Zealand, particularly when everything's going to cost more to bring here. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This can't leave us back. Can we get advice around speaking to Mana Whenua and what the process is around that?
So there'll be no staff advice back. We've asked the group to go and work with the red zone staff about the proposal, and then for them to work with the red zone team to come back and brief the board on next steps and what it's going to look like. So from then, once we've progressed this, then we can propose that question.
And that group also includes Mana Whenua representation.
On the co-government.
Yeah. So, right. The next public forum is Chris Carroll. Chris is here. Hey, Chris.
Hello. I sent an email in with information about what this is about. Do I press a button?
Yep, that's been circulated. Thank you.
Okay, good. So then you know what it's about. We have a community hall here that we managed to save from the construction of the apartment builders. And we don't have a parking lot. We need a parking lot because all kinds of events are coming through. When we do our events, from the Circus Trust perspective, which is another hat I wear, we get 200 people in there. And then maybe that's 80 to 100 car parks. Where do they park? So the hall is our community hall. We need to serve it. You're our community board. I bring it to you folks.
Right, Celeste?
Thanks for coming in and also your work to save the hall. It is a shame that there isn't space for off-street car parks, so I acknowledge that. In terms of your proposed option, talking about the red zone, are we able to just get a report, some advice from staff as to what's happening as part of the Pages Road Young's Kennel project? Because that's covered in the scope of that work. So we're just good to get an update on that, because my recollection is that one of the design options, we were going to put 5 car parks in that area.
5.
But I just want to, I just want to confirm that, because that'll build a picture of where the car parking will be and where the gaps are, and that might be useful when we work towards where somewhere closer might be better as well, I was thinking. So are we able to also get advice on alternative sites that might be closer to the hall as part of that process?
Yeah. So when we ask for staff advice, they will come back with everything that we've addressing what we've mentioned.
And one specific point to include would be, I don't know if you've covered that off, would be the car park opposite the hall, which is.
It's already, we've parked there, and it's owned by or it's run by a body corporate, and all the car parks are filled. Currently, we actually had an angry email from them already saying we should not allow any of our students or our adults or any of our event people parking there. So we've already been slapped on the wrist by that.
So it might be good to find out if council has the option of purchasing that as part of the Pages Road project, because I know we looked at that, but it'd be good to revisit that.
Yeah.
That would be closer than the other option.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Kim and then Yanni.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I agree. I mean, we have to remember, as a community board, we have to remember that Brighton is still in the beginning stages of revitalisation, and essential to a lot of people in the business community have invested. A lot of homes now being built here, as you know. So we have to be mindful that removing any car parks is only detrimental to revitalisation of this area. So being mindful of all these things, especially with the community centre, and we have issues with car parks down at North Beach too, and we have a designated car park. So it would be really good if we could explore options for people around the area that could be potential.
Yanni, last question.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Do you think, I mean, I'm just aware of all the parking restrictions as well that we have that don't seem to be adhered to. I mean, up here is classic B10, but hardly anyone parks B10, they park longer. Do you think there's a need for a sort of parking strategy for New Brighton Central CBD? Do you know what I mean? Like a need for some sort of look at all of the parking within the middle of the New Brighton Centre?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like everyone, we've got the developers that are developing, and they're developing places that the government's decided don't need parking spots. So yes, I would say that you need to look at what the parking spaces are, because guess what? We still drive cars. They're not some kind of a mysterious thing where all of a sudden we've got this perfect system where we get in buses and taxis and trains, because we don't. We drive our cars everywhere. And as we get more apartments, we get less on the street parking, because they're all parking there. And so they should be, because there's the apartments across the road and people are going to park there. So the hall has events all the time, and there are all different kinds of events, big ones, little ones. We run circus classes as well. There's 150 kids a week that come into the hall in the circus. But as a caretaker of the hall, I also see all the churches and the weddings and the funerals and everyone else that's interested. And all of a sudden there's 200 people there, and they park all over the place to walk to the hall. This particular piece of property that I've looked at numbers of times, because I drive past it all the time, there's potential to put 100 car parks there, at least even more. You could put a whole bunch there if you wanted to. So there, and you could gate it. You could put a a lock over it so that you can just have it for specific events or specific things in New Brighton.
Right, thank you, Chris.
Okay.
And we're about out of time now, but
Yeah.
we'll refer that to staff with further advice.
Cool. Thank you for listening and happy day.
Thank you for coming. Right, the final public forum is Sanya about the New Brighton Mall.
Well, could I just quickly note while they're coming up that there has been a transport survey done, which includes parking in New Brighton. So as part of that request, it'd just be good to follow up on the outcomes of that.
Yeah, good idea, Alex. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for slotting me in today at such short notice. I just have an idea I'd like to present to the board here, based on my extensive travels around New Zealand and also based on Wanganui's past back in around about the 1990s. In Wanganui, they had the main street, Victoria Ave, the big travel through street. And in the centre, in the downtown area, they had it blocked off as a mall pedestrian count. Well, in 1990, around that time, Chaz Pointer was the mayor and he was standing down, but one of his colleagues got voted on the council promoting the idea to take the mall out and have Wanganui as a drive-through. And of course, he got voted in and it's been a drive-through street ever since. Now, I believe New Brighton could do the same and have experienced maybe slow growth over the next years of having a two-way traffic system wide enough to have parking on either side, which will bring back more shopkeepers, which I believe will eventually happen. As well as at the moment, there is a bit of a mall at one end. We don't have the pedestrian count, the foot traffic count to substantiate that. And that sort of thing is prevalent in Europe, where you've got a higher population and they have a different travel system. We have two bus systems or two bus routes coming in and out of New Brighton each day. Number 135 and 5. So I believe Seaview Road needs to be a drive-through. It'll be positive growth, I believe, because people can then park. As the previous gentleman said, we are a one-car nation, and we do have the space in New Zealand for that. And we don't have the population in New Brighton. Anyway, that's what I'd like to present to the board.
Right, any questions? All right, well, thanks. Alex online.
I just wanted to question, obviously up towards sort of where the United Video Easy used to be, kind of opposite Grace Vineyard Church. That is two ways, but there's a number of abandoned or desolate buildings there. So I guess if two-way was the solution to our concerns in New Brighton, wouldn't that, just keen to hear your thoughts on, wouldn't that have had a flow-on effect on those current desolate sites?
On the current what?
The current vacant buildings.
Look, I'm not sure. This is an idea I'm presenting based on my travels around New Zealand. And there are not many other cities have a mall blocked off area, apart from Hastings on Heretaunga Street West. They have that, and it's a bit of a go around, but like Wanganui.
Okay, and just to follow up there, Paul, in terms of the RMF extension, I can't remember what it's called in the master plan, but it's whatever it's called in the master plan, but effectively it's the extension of RMF right through the mall. I guess there is currently works in the plan and work being done to look at a thoroughfare there or whatever that may look like, and potentially that could be a good way to have that area that you're talking about whilst maintaining the pedestrian and safety aspects of the mall and the market. But just wanted to leave that there.
Yeah, we can refer this to staff for further investigation, but there is a plan in place. I don't know if you're familiar with the New Brighton master plan. Be worth you having a look at if you're interested in that. So the long story short is that back when there used to be a monopoly on weekend trading here, that the the retail sector went like this, perpendicular to the beach, whereas where it's successful, retail is along the beach, and so the master plan is to make the space closest to the beach as useful as possible, which also includes having this road go through, or the RMF go through, I should say.
Right.
Yep. Right.
Okay, look, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Right, now we move on to deputations. So we have Kerry Frederickson, local resident, about the bus stop upgrades on beach and estuary roads. Is Kerry here? Hi, Kerry. The mic is just the
This one here.
Yep, that's the one.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. I'm Kerry. I'm a resident and a member of the South Brighton community. I will be directly impacted as a resident, and I want to be transparent about that. However, a lot of my concerns, like personally, will also impact others in our community, and this is a significant motivation for my being here today. My current position is that I strongly support moving bus stop to 6557 from its current location outside the Bridge Hub / Student Cafe on Estuary Road. I'm currently opposed to both of the current proposed options. My main concerns are exacerbating the existing congestion and safety issues on the north side of the roundabout. So although proposed option 1 is slightly further from the roundabout than the existing bus stop location, it is significantly more complicated than potential sites on the south side of the roundabout, because on the north side there are popular businesses on both sides of the road, the common ground community space. There are loads more occupied residences, 13 in the immediate zone just on the east side of Estuary Road, and also the location of the north-westbound bus stop and the effects that already has on traffic flow at the roundabout. I'm also concerned about the negative impact on businesses, community organisations and residents in the area due to those lost parking spaces for their visitors and staff. These orgs and businesses provide highly valued and popular community programs, essential services and community spaces, and they're celebrated for their ongoing positive impact on the revitalisation of South Brighton. Residents also need access to street parking for themselves, for support workers and care providers, because out here many of us still need to rely on car travel due to the current routes, unreliability and accessibility and limited frequency of the public transport services. We're already seeing dangerous traffic manoeuvres due to parking in this area, and this change will make that worse. I appreciate the suggestion of extending yellow lines across the 71-73 shared driveway was implemented into the proposal. However, I'm concerned that the improved visibility in that one direction is being given more weight than the safety impacts of the congestion and unsafe practices that are already occurring. And I imagine that those will increase in relation to finding it harder to find parks and the increased requirement based on risk identification and assessment and managing those hazards for drivers exiting the roundabout. I'm also concerned about accessibility and safety. There is no continuous path of accessible travel to the Bridge Street Hub Community Centre from 71 Estuary Road. As I am aware, there's not been any action taken so far to ensure that there would be, and I don't believe there has been any assessment in regards to the compliance or accessibility of the existing uncontrolled crossings and splitter islands immediately on the roundabout. I also feel that the accessibility could be impacted by that high density of residents in that area. There's 13 residents there, residences putting wheelie bins out in that immediate area, and poor visibility coming out of that driveway for pedestrians getting off the bus right there and having to cross in that direction. I don't feel that all of my concerns in that area have been addressed in the report, and in regards to the wheelie bins, I I don't feel that the evidence provided is reflective of the current situation. I feel that this isn't really a case of a small bus stop that will only impact a couple of houses. The location and proximity to our busy roundabout means that this will impact many more people in our community. I think it requires a more considered and integrated approach, ideally considered in the context of larger planning proposals for the area, including the Eastern Outer Orbital Cycleway or future routes, to ensure that they work well together to improve accessibility, safety, and participation for our community. I've spoken to others in the community that also share this view but are unable to be here today. I do realise that this is possibly a situation of choosing the best of the worst options, and perhaps this is the best of the worst options, but I would like to request that the community board consider further exploration of these concerns, and the potential participation of other affected community members, groups and businesses in consultation around this as part of your decision today or later if deferred.
Right, thank you. Do we have any questions? Celeste?
First of all, thank you for coming in. Appreciate that. It's always good to hear from residents who've taken the time to look into these things and also communicate with council. In terms of the current proposal, the recommended option, sorry, I know we don't have time to really talk it through, so would there be other mitigations that, say, if the community board went to progress this option, recognising it might be sort of the least bad of the proposed options, are there other things that you think we should look at? I think you talked around the uncontrolled crossing, and I think that's a really good point. Is there an opportunity for us to sort of, outside of the scope of this project, but ask for advice on some other bits that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, looking at those uncontrolled crossings, I'm not an expert on this. I think there is potentially some issues there in terms of gradient and surface for the likes of wheelchair users, mobility aid users, but also like the fact that it is uncontrolled and that area is so busy. We're also thinking about access requirements in relation to vision, and like long cane users, is it wide enough for them to be able to preview in that space, and also hearing, simplicity for people that may have wayfinding challenges such as learning disability, and in some of our older people, confusion, things like that. Again, I think there could be improvements made to ensure that like the continual accessible path of travel from that bus stop across that driveway, and then along around the common ground as well. There's action that could be taken there to improve that, in terms of like, where are all of these wheelie bins? What happens when they fall or blow over, or when cars open their doors into them? Where are the businesses' footpath signs located? Bicycle, like all those sorts of hazards that exist on footpaths, especially on that side, because it is so much busier and there are businesses and stuff happening on both sides. It's a pretty busy spot. Yeah.
So, and just finally from me, if the board resolved to do that, ask that additional advice, because I think it's useful work to do regardless, would you be interested in if there's an opportunity to feed into that process? Because as a local resident, you have a good understanding of how the area is used, and other obviously stakeholders such as the Bridge Hub and other groups.
Yeah, I would, and I would also suggest maybe going to the City Council Accessibility Advisory Group.
Yep.
There's some really knowledgeable people on there.
So good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kim?
Just in the correspondence you mentioned about it's repositioning to 117.
Can you move your mic a bit closer?
Sorry. Yes, so 117, now that you mentioned that in correspondence, just wondering, considering number 71 to 117, which one would you prefer? if it was a consideration. I mean, I know staff have ruled it out.
Yeah.
For some reason, but re-looked at.
Thank you for your question. I don't have all of the information to know whether which is better essentially. I think that 117 is better based on what I know and experience of the area living there. And I see a lot of benefit in keeping it on the south side of the roundabout. I think that is immensely safer. The traffic situation is a lot less complicated down there. But I do understand that in terms of like routes and things like that, it might be a bit niggly. But that currently would be my preference, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
Any further questions? Well, in that case, thank you very much for your deputation and for what you've sent in writing. And we'll consider that. We'll ask staff to respond to what you've raised when they come and give their report.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. So next, if we have a correspondence from the South Shore Residents Association on the same matter. Someone like to move that we receive that, and then we'll get staff to come and get to move by Celeste and seconded by Jackie, who I think just beat Kim. All those in favour say aye. Aye. It's carried. Right. Thank you. So now, staff view, we have Mansour. Right. And so I think you can take the report as read, and if you could just address what has been raised in both, have you seen the correspondence from the South Shore Residents Association and also the deputation?
Sure. Yeah, welcome to board. So I'll just go directly to this case because we have another case in the report. So I assume we didn't have any question for that one on Beach Road.
There might be questions from, but if you start with the...
Sure. Yeah, I start with the Beach Road one. We have investigated lots of options for this bus stop case. And this is basically the second report that we are bringing to the county board. And these includes all the options either east of the roundabout and also the west of the roundabout. In terms of the concerns raised by the deputation, in terms of, I start with the proximity to the roundabout and the congestion concerns or safety concern associated with that. So basically buses can park legally 6 meters away from an intersection. An NZTA recommendation from the guard recommends to have the bus stops away 20 meters from the bus stop. What we are recommending as a preferred option here includes have a distance about 80 to 90 meters from the intersection. So it's like a minor or like a perceived concern. I would say in terms of the parking, so we are losing about 6 on-street parking. Unfortunately, in this case, in the original bus stop location, we aren't achieve any parking, which could a little bit compensate what we are losing in the new location. Due to the safety concerns, we have to put no stopping restriction over there. And in terms of effect on the residents and businesses, we have had an on-site meeting with the businesses, Cracking Cafe and the dairy on site. And when we explain the reasoning and the limitation that we had for the options east side of the roundabout and the fact that we have to come to the options on the west side of the roundabout, their position was they were quite opposed to the bus stop being in front of 85 and 91, basically the county garden, because they need those parkings for running their businesses. And they initially identified the location outside 71 to be a potential option, and then we start to go and investigate that. This is also mentioned in the report. I acknowledge that this might be undesirable for some affected residents. But this is the fact the road space and the on-street parking spaces are limited, and we have different road users. We need to take care of all the road users, including the PT users, and also the affected stakeholder like the businesses. In terms of the accessibility and safety, if the residents thinks that there are like concerns about the crossing at the roundabout, we may raise these out of the scope of this case to the relevant safety expert, and they can investigate that. In terms of like the accessibility, in terms of like the pins being there or the business signs being there, I would say this is similar to the many of the bus stops that we have in operation across the city. So I would consider this as a minor concern, but we still can have also reference this to like our accessibility experts to consider like out of the scope of this report. There were concerns about the litter, noise and air pollution. In case of the litter, I expect these to be minimal because it's a drop-off stop. So the litter problem mainly are in the boarding stops where people wait mainly. In case of the noise and air pollution, I expect these to be minimal as well. Those are normally problems at the layover when we have buses to stop there for 15 minutes or something for the break. And as I said, I acknowledge that it's undesirable to lose that parking for some of the residents. But in these cases, I never asked what's the solution. And in this case, number 117, east side of the roundabout is one of the locations that was highlighted where we have considered this, but there are like there are two main concerns with that compared to the preferred location. And the one is that we want onboard and outboard pairs of like a pair of bus stops to be close to each other. And these option 117 will have a negative disadvantage. It's going to have a disadvantage in terms of that concern. In addition to that, our preferred option, at least, is close to roundabout, so people can use the existing island for crossing. While if we go to the 117, there is basically no crossing over there, so it's undesirable from that safety aspect. The other locations east of the roundabout have been considered, like the ones before 117, but we have a legal constraint over there. As this bus stop is a driver changeover, it cannot be interrupting any driveway. It's not illegal. So what's happening at the moment, interrupting the bridge hop driveway is actually illegal indeed. So that's about the options that we've considered and the concerns raised. I think I covered all of them. If there is any more question, I can.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. Bus stops are never easy, are they? Just you have clarified one of the questions that I had around the 117. There are those couple of disadvantages that you said, but I suppose if in relation to the disadvantages that have been pointed out by our Kerry today, safety aspects there, then potentially would that not be more beneficial when we think about the disadvantages that she's raised today about being outside number 71? 117 has a really nice wide area where you can have that layover. Yes, there's issues if you don't go back to the roundabout to cross, you do have to make way across the road. But it is a wee way away from the roundabout and you know, to be able to get some clear sight lines. So yeah, personally, I'd quite like to see that option sort of be the option. The school bus, just some general things, the school bus stop is going to be, the structure is going to be removed outside 51. And Beach Road on the table. Just wondering if where that would be repurposed in May when the council obtain it, hopefully, whether that could sort of stay within the vicinity of the area to be repurposed.
Sorry, can you rephrase the second part of the
Yeah,
question?
just so that the shelter
Mhm.
outside 51 is
Yeah.
to be removed.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering whether that could be repurposed into the same area,
Mhm.
or maybe it could be repurposed to Beach Road, just trying to think about how that could be. You know, so it sort of stays in the area a little bit there, and whether the school needs it down, you know, there's a bus stop down by the school, whether they could do with it, just sort of, you know, have a bit of a think about that one, please. So Kerry raised about the disability within council. Have they actually, you know, cast their eyes over this particular area and this, or have they been involved in this decision? Is that not something we do normally, or
I will explain.
number 71
Mhm.
position? Just that would be helpful. Yeah, I think there's been quite a bit of the community aren't so keen on losing car parks, so that's definitely something you have to consider, which there would be for the businesses around them. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly?
Thanks, Councillor.
Any Alex?
Just wondering if you could help explain to me. So when I look at the the proposed bus stop, the yellow lines outside the bus stop area, you know, looks like, you know, maybe 15 metres or something like that. Is that the ideal across the city, or is that something we're just doing in this case? I'll tell you why I asked, because out in Bassett Street, there are bus stops with no yellow boxes and no yellow lines, which the residents are very grateful for. But also outside the Palms, which is, I'm sure you'll agree, is a tremendously busy place. Their bus stop is sort of offset at the side of the road. And you've got an incredibly busy turn into the mall, but there's no yellow lines there. So I just struggle to understand the reason why there's 15 metres of yellow lines when potentially the bus is probably not coming here that often and could just slip into the box maybe with just a few metres of yellow lines. Like maybe you could explain that to us.
Yeah, so do you want me to go through first King questions and then first question?
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I went, we'll go to Kim's questions and then to Kelly's questions, and then we'll go to Celeste and then to Alex.
Okay, so I'll start with the questions about the safety, shelter, disability, and the car parks. In terms of the safety, as I said, the bus stop is quite matched with the recommendations from the best practice guide of SNTA, and we didn't identify any safety concern with that. Indeed, the one outside 117 is the one that will bring that concern of having no crossing facility over there. In terms of the shelter, yes, has to be removed because it's a drop-off stop indeed. Whether we can consider to allocate the shelter to this area, yes, that's something that I will consider. In terms of the car parks, yes, I think it's two factors playing here. One, I already said, unfortunately, we can't compensate some of the on-street parking lots in the new location by the ones created in the original location due to the safety concerns. And the second is that, which I think sort of also answered the question over there, is so in terms of no stopping restriction before bus box and after bus box. So our practice is that if we are relocating a stop or upgrading a stop, we provide that standard. Across the city, and CCC standard is like about 12 or 15 meters before the stop and about 6 meters after the stop. In this location, we have a little bit more, as you noted. And the reason for that is that we have these bus stop as a driver changeover, which means the dwell time is a bit longer. So to keep the safe side distance for the people that are exiting or entering the driveway, we need to keep that no stopping restriction. So that's the item that we had to take care. So, yeah.
All right, so now a question from Celeste.
Thank you. Just interested, I'm sure it's in the report, but could you remind me, what's the distance between the bus stops? So if it was in the recommended spot, what's the distance between the one before and the one after? What's the sort of gap in terms of?
Well, I think in terms of the preferred options, at the moment, the average spacing in these areas is about 200 meters, which is not desirable. With these relocation, it will be affected, which is the case for both option, our preferred option and the one outside 117. The other concern that we have, which is a very big plus for these, our preferred option, but it's a negative for the option outside 117, is the distance between two pair of the stops, the inbound and outbound. So with our preferred option, we will have inbound and outbound very close to each other, which is preferred in terms of public transport factors. But with the one outside 117, we will have basically two isolated stops rather than a bus stop pair. It increased the distance between them to 200 meters, which is not so.
Just to clarify, because I understand I'll go back to the paired stops as a separate question, but what's the distance between the recommended one and the one before? Is it around 200 meters between what's recommended? Because I had a look and it seems quite close to the next one.
Yes.
On Issue Road. So do you know what the distance is?
It's about 140 to 50 with our preferred one. And with the 117, it will be about 100 or something. It's like a comparable, about 100 to 120, something like that with its next.
So it's both quite close.
Yeah, both quite close.
Okay. And then just with the paired bus stops, it's a new concept for me. I hadn't thought about that before. What does that actually mean? Like, I understand you mean opposite, but why is that an advantage? Do you go from one to the other? What's the public?
So like, I tried to list these in the email that I sent today to come to board. It comes with lots of advantages, including the infrastructure planning and cost. So if you have the pair close to each other, it's much easier to provide pedestrian crossing, just pedestrian crossing. But if you have a 200 meters pairs far from each other, that's going to be a problem. Maintenance costs would be a benefit to have them close to each other. In terms of passenger wayfinding and simplicity, it's much better. In terms of the transfers between different routes, in terms of network mapping, and also passive surveillance. If we have bus stops close to each other, and also close to the major tube generator, it's much more better in terms of passive surveillance.
Just a couple more. You mentioned there isn't a pedestrian crossing for the 117. What do you mean?
I mean the pedestrian crossing, the islands close to the roundabout.
So if you're going to Jones Bay, you'd be on that side of the road anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and you have
So
to cross that.
You would need to cross the road, would you?
Yes.
From 117, you would?
If you are going to Doncaster, not.
Yeah.
But if you are going to the other side of the street, you have to cross.
So to the dairy, for instance. Okay. And then just finally, as I understand you've done all sorts of work in this, so I appreciate that. And in terms of who you've spoken with around the pros and cons between 117 and the recommended option, I understand you've spoken to the businesses about the recommended option. Did you say that there was two potential options, which would be your preference? Or did you say if we move it to that option, do you think? I'm just wondering if we have enough information from things like the Bridge Hub in terms of 117 versus the other option. Did you hear it from them about specifically if we had two options on the table?
We normally for the bus stop guys talk with the affected residents, directly affected residents, which in our practice means those just beside the stop. And in that sense, because of the local context, we also talked with the businesses in the community garden, but we normally don't talk with the other businesses other side of the roundabout, because we were just removing problematic bus stop outside the location. Yeah.
If you don't mind, just ask one more question around the process. So if I understand you've done a huge amount of work, so I want to acknowledge that. If we wanted to get a bit more information from, say, the hub and some other stakeholders, looking at those two options, and because they're quite comparable, I guess, in some ways. The recommended option does have advantages, I see that, but 117, is that still a viable option that we could consider, or is that being ruled out completely because it's not legally possible?
It's been ruled out based on the safety concern and the negative impacts from the public transport aspects. It's probably legally still feasible to do that, but has been ruled out because of the, as I said, the public transport factors and the safety concerns.
Thank you.
Right, Alex and then Yanni.
Just a couple of questions from me. First of all, forgive me if you have already highlighted this. I think there's been a whole bunch of numbers. It's been a bit. So in relation to 117 versus 71 Estuary Road, am I correct in thinking that you spoke to June in the Common Ground in Kraken, and it was Kraken that didn't respond?
Sorry, what was the question? Can you rephrase?
So when you went out to consult, did you talk to these stakeholders about 117?
No, we when an option is ruled out and not considered feasible, we don't consult on that yet.
Okay, I see. And I guess my next question is, as part of these minutes pool, is the email that we sent this afternoon that outlines why 117 is not a feasible option, would that be possible to include in the minutes so people understand?
So you're wanting it noted. Sorry, you're wanting it
Yes.
noted
So the email that we
report.
got, if we could, I don't know if it's possible or if the standing orders allow, but there's quite some relevant information that was sent to us today that wasn't in the agenda, and that was because it was an alternative that was proposed. Obviously, that staff wasn't recommending.
I think, I think you can just ask that the reasons, the explanation for why 117 wasn't concluded was circulated to the local stakeholders.
Okay, I would like to move the motion with what you just highlighted.
Well, hold on a sec. We're not at that point.
Okay.
And you're
Well, I'd like to foreshadow a motion.
Foreshadowing a motion or an amendment, I think. Oh, so don't worry, I'll hear from you. It's just that we don't, there's no, we're not at that point yet. Yeah. All right, Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. Just interested to know if you considered talking to the bus operators about changing the driver exchange point, therefore leading to a better outcome with reduced yellow lines.
We have actually, I think it was one of the things that we did in the initial report, and unfortunately, so they have some limitation in terms of the hours that the drivers being on the shift, so they don't have too much option. But we consider the next bus stop or the previous one, but they are also interrupting the driveway and also very close to an intersection. So we have problem both legal and in terms of safety to change that change over to the next or previous bus stop. So basically, we didn't have that option to work with the bus operators to relocate that function from this bus stop.
Do we have a list of bus exchange places within our board's area? Like, do we know where each one is, or is it just by chance when we're looking at a bus stop that we discover it?
We don't have a list or database of that, but these often are highlighted when we do the consultation with ECAN. So they know of it, and when we consult on the plan with them, say, this is a case, and yes, information like that.
Okay. So I was keen to know, in the deputation, I think there was a question raised around if we were doing other changes around cycling, for example. So is there any other transport projects that are going to go through this, particularly the roundabout?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment.
So there's no proposals for cycling lanes or car parking restrictions in the vicinity that we're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll talk with the area engineer of here, and not that I'm aware of at the moment.
Okay, because I seem to recall we did have a briefing about something on Marine Parade in this area, and there was a whole bunch of car parking that was going to be withdrawn.
Oh, but I mean on this Sherry Road part, there might be other projects on the
Bridge.
more far, yeah.
So how much consideration should we give to the impact of Bridge Street and Estuary Road around this?
The fact is that in terms of the parking lose, even if we go with the 117, we're still gonna lose the same, almost the same amount of parking. That's the fact. Any location we choose for these bus stop to be relocated, we are going to lose parking, and the amount would be comparable to the amount that we are having for our preferred option.
And just the final question from me was really around, so we're just looking at the different options that we have, but the idea of the bus shelter being removed, so people are going to get a lesser level of service. And I'm just trying to understand the rationale behind that. Like, we've spent a whole bunch of money putting in new bus shelters, trying to improve the level of service, but here we're talking about removing one.
Well, the function of bus shelter is to provide with the protection for the people waiting at the bus stop. This bus stop is a drop-off bus stop, and the boarding on average is just one passenger per day. So the shelter is providing a sort of like a minimal advantages. It could be used in another bus stop with more boarding passenger. So what I'm saying in brief is that we have only one person that waits at this bus stop to get on board. It's mainly used as a drop-off bus stop, so people just drop from the bus.
So I guess the question then that raises is, how did this get a bus shelter to start with? And do we have good, settings around the location of bus shelters, the need and based on demand?
Can we, given the length of time that we've spent on this already, I don't think that's directly relevant to the decision we're making. It's not that it's not something that can't be raised, but can you raise that offline? It's a good question. All right, Greg.
Can you explain to me why outside number 92 on Estuary Road is yellow lines going in there? Remove parking in front of the speed bump. It's on the south side as you look at the picture.
In the south side.
So opposite where the current bus stop is.
Yeah.
Across the road, it's if there's yellow lines going on the other side of the road from there.
So I couldn't relocate the outside 92.
Outside number 92, yes.
So I'm seeing the let's figure out the number 92. Oh, so this one already there. So this is the only part that we are proposing. This one already there, so we just put it there because it wasn't on the aerial map.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. All right, any further questions? Yep.
You have answered this, so I'm just sorry. As part of the process, we wanted to go back out to community and get some further information on the 117 to see the community views. Based upon the advice around the public transport planning stuff, is that a viable option or not? You're saying that we can, it's not recommended, but it can be put, is that right?
No, our assessment is in the report. We don't see this as a reasonably practicable.
Okay. So then as an alternative, if we wanted to enhance the current option, you're saying that we might put a resolution to the effect of asking formally for, separate to this project, some additional work being done around some of the other concerns, accessibility, pedestrian crossings, things around that roundabout. I realise that's out of the scope of your project, but we can put that and you can potentially feedback through.
I believe this could be feasible. Some of them might be shifted to other teams, but the company board can ask for advice on those.
So I just want to flag that as a potential amendment to the motion.
So
that makes sense.
So what I'm going to, hold on a sec, Alex, what I'm going to suggest, I think, is that we have a brief adjournment while you and Alex work out between you an amended motion that's based on the staff recommendation. Can you?
I don't think we need an adjournment. I'm happy to withdraw my foreshadowed motion and second Celeste, depending on the wording. So if Celeste puts her motion, I can then consider seconding it.
So we'll give Celeste 2 minutes to draft something. So we'll adjourn. Thank you for your report and your advice.
Thanks.
And your comprehensive work on that.
Any question for the beach road one?
I don't believe that. Right. We're live in Boston and Wainoni and Washington. All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion which Celeste is going to move. Can you just, so there's a staff recommendation plus a couple of other things. Can you make that clear to the board, please? And it'll be up on the screen.
Well, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You just
I've
can't
got my
see.
got my camera on, but it's not showing up on.
Oh, that's just
Oh, I'll freeze the screen. Sorry, that's
freeze,
me.
yeah.
Cool. That's right. Just want to make sure I'm not being marked down as not in attendance.
So we have on the screen, so it's a staff recommendation and then number in subsection 15.
So I've moved the staff reg based upon the feedback from staff that the other option wasn't able to be put, but also I've added in a request that staff investigate some of the other issues that were identified as part of that process. So that'll be reported back separately. And I think you can sort of get the gist. Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah.
Any questions?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, of Celeste.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a process question as well.
Yeah, process question.
I'd like to know whether it would be possible to deviate from if it was the board, deviate from the recommendation to actually reduce the number of yellow lines outside the box.
So that's that's an amendment to something. I need to know whether I've got a seconder before. Do I have a seconder for the motion that Celeste has put? Is that Alex?
I mean, I'm happy to second it. I just wanted to add potentially that, like I said before, that the email that was sent to us was included in the minutes of the meeting.
Yeah.
Because I think that's quite an important consideration that would need to be put in the motion itself.
I don't think it needs to be in the motion because we've already noted it and been noted. So it's not, it's a communication issue, not really. Yeah, I don't think you need to amend it.
My question question for Celeste then before I say yes or no to this, haven't we done a safety audit recently, which is why we did the upgrades to the roundabout? And I guess if staff's still there, how much would a safety audit like this normally cost? I'm in favour of safety, but I just wanted to make sure we're not duplicating work.
A good question. Maybe safety audit isn't exactly the right word, but I think the request would be previous work was quite targeted around specific concerns related to the roundabout. This is just extending the kind of scope slightly bigger beyond that. So to take your point, and I would imagine staff would just use existing information and update that as needed. So hopefully no happen.
My second question, if staff's still there, just in relation to Kelly's point, am I correct in thinking that the yellow lines are there because otherwise the buses would be blocking driveways? And if Kelly, because I was whether or not
sorry, we're not debating we're not debating the foreshadowed amendment by
well, it's a question about this amendment and the lack of that. Whatever another member might want to put in, I guess for me to make a decision whether or not to second it, I wanted confirmation from staff that the reason why the yellow lines in the report are there is because otherwise the bus would be blocking driveways, and that's the only reason.
But that's the advice that we've been given.
Okay, thank you. Then yes, I second this motion.
Can I just ask a question about that? About the number 15. Can we separate that from the original body of
So you're wanting me are you wanting me to put 15 separately? I can do that.
just so it's not all lumped into one.
Well, we would just make it 2 votes. Yeah.
Can you also, if people want to vote for or against, you can always note that in the thing. You can say I vote against.
That would make it one vote. Yeah, no, I prefer to. Oh, let me think. Well, at the moment, I don't know whether I've got. I don't know whether I have a motion, so it depends on how it's moved. So Celeste has moved the motion. I need to know whether I've got a seconder.
But yeah, because if I've seconded it.
So it's seconded.
I have seconded it.
So which means that the best way forward procedurally is whether anybody wants to make an amendment. If you want to amend it.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
Wouldn't if you're wanting to separate 14 and 15, you just vote no to the motion because then it goes back to 14.
Well, no, it doesn't, because there was no motion on the table.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way to do it is that you can note, you can ask. So here's the way: is that you can ask that it be recorded that you don't support. If you only support 15 or you don't support whatever it is you want to record, that's probably the easiest way of doing it. Or
and wouldn't someone need to foreshadow it as well? Because if it lost, then the whole motion's lost, and there's no second option.
No.
Because but then if you vote, okay, right, gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Are we clear? So we have a motion that's on the table. It's been moved by Alex, and so it's the staff recommendation plus clause 15. So as a member of the motion, you're welcome to speak if you want to debate it.
This is a really tough one, because obviously it's really important to hear from community, and it's always really helpful to have people come in. So I really appreciate people coming in to speak. In this case, it seems like there isn't a perfect option, and unfortunately in this job, often we have to work with dealing with an imperfect solution, but usually the least bad option is kind of what we end up going with. I do think it's really important to look at the wider transport planning of this area, and as part of that, getting feedback through processes like this are really key. So even though this is a specific decision we're making today, I do think it provides us an opportunity to get feedback around the wider area and also start looking at what are the other considerations we have around accessibility, safety, pedestrian access. Because as we know, this is an area where there is increased foot traffic. It's really great to see how popular Gin Cafe is, and seeing this area continue to thrive and people flock into using the bridge hub. So I just want to make sure that as part of any future processes around other transport planning projects that we're undertaking, including the amendment today, which is looking at that wider bit of work, we continue to hear from community. So it's really valuable to hear from people. And yeah, I think this is where we've got into is a bit of a compromise, but I think the key thing is we get on and make a decision, because the current location isn't safe.
Right. Anybody else wish to speak? Kim?
Yes, please.
So Kim and then
Thank you. Yes, it definitely is a tough decision here for the board today. I know that, thank you to staff for doing a great job in presentation and looking into this thoroughly. I would actually like to see that I know that the negative side of the 117 or the disadvantages of perhaps putting it outside 117 coming from staff's perspective, but it would be quite good to have taken those concerns of staff back out to community to hear, what their perspective was on those staff concerns and safety concerns, just to satisfy ourselves as a community board to know that shifting it to 71 was the lesser of the two evils, so to speak. So yeah, today I won't be able to support anything, but I would be keen on doing the 15. Thank you.
all right. Anyone else wish to speak? Well,
Yep. Yes, yeah.
Oh, Alex, sorry.
That's all right. Look, I first of all want to speak to the item 14, which is we are, as Kib and Celeste has pointed out, in a difficult position where there is lots of parking, but both options have lots of parking. 71 is clearly safer. It's closer to a pedestrian crossing. It's more compatible. It's consistent. It ensures that other bus stops are opposite each other. I think as elected members, we have a responsibility to make and do actions, and we're elected to do that. And by not voting for this because staff have come up with a view that is based on their experience, and they are very experienced staff members, I think would be a disservice to those who have voted us in. Looking at item 15, which talks about safety and accessibility order, I think it's really important to consider that there's a huge amount of school children, patrons to Kraken, the dairy, June, the Bridge Hub, and I personally welcome any opportunity to ensure that the safety of our community and our whānau is prioritised. Item 15 doesn't bind us to any actions. It ensures that we are looking at all aspects of safety and making sure that this change doesn't disproportionately impact or cause any harm to those in our community. Again, I think staff have made their position very clear. I think going out to the community to consult on this would give a false expectation that 117 is viable when we're very clear that 117 isn't, due to the impact of the, well, it is, but in terms of the car parking lots, that doesn't change with 71 or 117. So that's my perspective, and that's why I'm seconding this motion.
All right, well, anybody else wish to speak? Greg?
I think it's a particularly weird one this time. So often we get things and it's pretty straightforward as to what's happening and why it's happening. The reason it has to happen is the bus stop that's currently used is not feasible. So we have to have an alternative to carry on with something. To be fair, I really don't like either of them. But I can see a lot of benefit, or more benefit in one than the other, which is, yeah, it's hard to find in points of it, but it's definitely there, which is, yeah, the reason I'll be supporting it, because there is benefits in the outside 71 than there is the other option this time.
Yeah, and in the absence of a perfect solution, I'll be supporting this today. So all those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? You just want to vote against 15. Can we have that note?
No.
Abstain on 15. On all of them except 15, or just on the whole thing? Oh, sorry, I put it as a whole one. So it'll be abstain. Yeah, sorry about that.
Can I call for do I need to have a division for that abstention to be noted?
No, it will be noted anyway, because
Okay.
I'll have to load it onto Botendo tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so everything gets recorded, yeah. All right then, so that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you to members of the public and staff. All right, so we'll move now to briefings. We have item number 7, which is briefing from Gary Watson.
Beach Road.
That was all part of the recommendation.
Yeah. So we carried Beach Road, yeah. Gary.
Hi, everybody. I'll be reasonably quick. I just wanted to give you an update on the last couple of weeks, what I've been doing out around Bromley and around the plant. And probably some clarification. So I've been probably spending about 25 hours a week on this at the moment. By the end of April, I'll be full-time out here. And my contract will be for 2.5 years. So that is to go to the end of the plant being built. I think it's important that we spend time consistently and work with this community and the wider East community. So, yeah, I just, like anything, I've got to disengage from some work to engage fully here. A little bit of an update. We've achieved a fair bit around Bromley in the last couple of weeks in terms of little things that needed to be done. Myself and the local team who have been awesome. So the Bromley Centre, we've got some new heat pumps going in there. We've upgraded some hall heaters. We've fixed the CCTV problems and the trees. Thank you to Councillor Johansson. Are being pruned and the lines are being cleared. So it might sound minor, but from the local community, those are all things that they wanted done. And those trees were concerning for people. I had been doing drop-ins at the community centre. To be honest with you, it hasn't really worked. So in the newsletter today, it will have said that I won't be doing any more. And I'm trying to find the best way to be accessible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to base myself at the plant. I've got some office space there with the project team, which is awesome. And basically, I've my phone number's there, my email's there. I'll be going to as many meetings in the East as I can, but just try and keep meeting people, offering the opportunity to go and see them at home or see them wherever's best. Yeah, so just trying to work out that accessible, but it's not always easy. I met with the contractors and the project managers the other day on site and had a look around. And I think one of the things I'd really like to start to do as the project builds along is get some more photos out, get some regular updates on what's going on. We talked about, the team offered at some point to maybe able to start bringing some of the community in and show them what's going on. That takes a bit of a health and safety nightmare, but that's okay. But they've offered, and so we'll see how we work that out. Even to the point where we talked the other day, and they talked about the large pipes that will be coming in for the plant, where we thought we should store them. That would be the least, I guess, disturbance to the local neighbours against that back fence. So the team out there is really trying to work out how they can deliver this project with the least uproar, which is great. As I say, I've been trying to meet as many people as I can. The food bank at the Bromley Centre on a Thursday has been good to catch up with people. I've talked to some people along that back fence around the shaking, which has started because they're driving piles and stuff. And we got a timeline. It's about a 4-month timeline for that at the moment. But the couple of families I went to are concerned of understand the timeline. There isn't much we can do. The vibration, we need to understand, isn't a thump thump. It's just a constant sort of, if that's fair. At times there'll be a thump thump, but at the moment we haven't got there. So, but I'm really keen to hear from people, especially in the area, if they're concerned. I'm quite happy to go and have a conversation or bring one of the contractors with me so people can understand. I'm meeting with the Chief Medical Officer of Health this week, and once with her alone, and then once with ECAN on Friday, just to try and get as much updated health information as we can get, and then start to look at, I've been requested to have a look at a psychosocial recovery plan, and I've drafted one, but without information it's a bit hard to do it properly. And then we need to think about what that means, how far that goes, what we're actually talking about. My conversation with a lot of the community, their drive is to have this plant fixed, and the need for support, I think, is at a level, if I use the word bespoke, I don't mean that it's not there, because it is, but feedback from community seems to be, don't look at something that blankets everything. Look for the areas that are the major issues. And because I'm out here, and because part of that report around after the fire was around the east, I'm going to stay involved in the Wetlands Grove campsite where the homeless community is, just because I've been in that in my other job, but it seems natural to hang on to that here. And yeah, there's still a little bit of resistance from people to have a conversation. Most people have been fantastic, and I've had lots of good conversations, but we ought to remember that this is a trust building exercise. And, you know, to do that, we meet people, we listen to people, and we just keep the conversation going. So that's where I am. The team's been great, supporting me while I've been out here. And yeah, I think placement at the ponds is the right place for me to be able to get the most up-to-date information and share it out as quickly as I can. So yeah, that's sort of where I am.
Right, thank you. Celeste, and then Kelly, and then Yanni, and then Greg.
I'll take notes.
And then me.
Just a question, you mentioned Wetlands Grove. Did you say you will be a liaison for that community?
I'm just staying in the project. So you've talked to Andrew Rutledge, and we've got some stuff going on, but
Yeah.
I just thought it was because I was involved at the start.
Yeah.
I'll just stay involved.
That would be helpful. And it would be good to, I'm sure we'll get updates around what the planning is
Absolutely.
before the report's developed.
Absolutely.
That'd be good, thank you.
Yep.
Kelly?
Yeah, Gary, I wonder if you could give us a bit of insight into the depth of understanding that the local community, the individuals have of the process that, from fire to insurance claim to planning, design and build. Do people understand in the community how difficult that process is?
It's one of the ironies. We think we communicate very well. I think there's a lot of people that don't know that we've started a rebuild. And so we've got to look at why that is, that different ways we need to get the message out. I think the fire and what's happened up until now, don't think people, well, they're interested in it, but they're more interested in from now until it being completed. And I think that's where the focus is.
But they do realise that we're working like 24/7 basically.
Yes, well, I hope so. Again, it comes down to the trust thing. I can say I'm the Pope, but I'm not the Pope. But someone who doesn't know I'm not the Pope, I could say I'm not I am. But yeah, I think
just in terms of actually communicating, you've tried clinics and things like that.
Yep.
Have you thought of street meetings like putting up a sign?
Yep.
There's local MPs very effective in our area of putting up a sign. I'll be here on Saturday at 4 p.m. and going along and assessing whether that's would work.
Yep. So I think that's part of my planning. To do a street meeting, you want the right people with the right information at the right time. And so that's going to take me a wee while to I guess build a relationship with the project team and everything. But that's definitely some of the plan.
But it would be a useful contact point because then you can
Absolutely.
get back to them and say, what are your questions? And I want to tell you.
No.
Thanks.
Yanni?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's really a question maybe not for Gary, but for the Kiwi Wood governance team. But when is the next local residents liaison meeting around the construction scheduled for? Do we have a time frame?
Do we need one?
Okay. So, I mean, the point of those groups was to have a regular engagement with the local residents around the impact of the construction. So, I just wanted to know, Gary, if you had any concerns raised with you with the construction happening out very early in the morning, not during the scheduled hours that on the work notice.
No, I haven't had that raised with me yet. No.
Cool. Is there a list of vulnerable people that we're putting together, or I'm just trying to understand what's happened with the community survey data?
Yeah.
And how we've identified people, particularly vulnerable people, and then looked at what bespoke support we can give to them.
Yeah, so the survey data, if I'm honest, done on a Tuesday, we didn't catch as many people at home as we wanted to. I think it's something that I'm going to have to build as I go along. One of the things we talked about in the newsletter was saying to people, and you've got to be careful because I might consider myself vulnerable, or my neighbour might consider myself vulnerable, but I mightn't, type thing. I think as I go along, I will collect that. It's something I ask everybody. Do you know your neighbour? Would you consider that they are, at a higher risk than anyone else? So we're building it, but we don't have a lot at the moment.
Thanks. Have you talked to Kieran about his report that he's put in?
Yep.
And is the health response? I'm just trying to understand today. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, but from a health response to the community, I think, and I would probably concur, it just feels like by the time we get any health response, the immediate health issues are in the past, and then the need isn't as necessary as it was when it was really urgent and people were suffering and getting nauseous. So I'm just trying to understand if there's any way that there can be like a time frame around that health response going forward, but also an understanding of what would trigger an increase in urgency when things get bad.
Sure. So that really is the conversation this week, is to understand, I guess, why I've struggled to get that information. Hopefully by this Friday, and I'm careful with timelines, but hopefully by this Friday, I will have a commitment of health information, when it will be regularly updated, and what we can offer. So, I mean, it sounds a bit ironic that it's all happening this week, but it's taken this week to get there.
One of the concerns that has been raised with me is that the health guidance level that we have in terms of our data isn't sufficient to provide reassurance that the levels people are being exposed to on a continuous basis are safe. Is that specific point going to be addressed with either our air quality experts or the health experts around looking at what happens around the world and what level of exposure and how it's measured?
So that's a 0.3.
0.3,
yeah. So I will bring that up with both of them, and I will ask the question. I know Kieran's report has a very high spike in it, but a very high spike that didn't last very long in terms of less than a minute. So yeah, I'm not sure, but I've spoken to Kieran around his data, and I think it's a survey that he undertook, and I will be taking that information with me on Thursday and Friday as well.
I mean, I've got lots of questions, but I'm mindful of time, so I'll just ask one more and maybe send these through by email. But in terms of just the communication about what's happening, I know that we did get some different graphs, but the graphs are quite hard to read, very faint sort of blue dots. We had graphs that are quite easy to read, but they don't appear to be being updated anymore. The last one's on the March 15th. But just in terms of how we distribute data, how we communicate, do you think there's a need to get feedback from residents around what's the most effective way? Because I know when you door knocked and when we saw you at the caravan, one of the residents said to me that a personalised letter would be much better than flyers that people just weren't aware of when it comes through the letterbox. Yet when I've asked if that could be done, I was told no. So I'm just wondering if there's a way we can incorporate the feedback from residents to improve the communication response.
I will take that on. Yep. I will,
Thank you. Greg and then Mihi.
Thanks, all. Do you see the list of questions that I sent through?
I did.
Fantastic. With regards to those, will you be updating through your normal updates a lot of those answers when they come available?
Did we update those this morning? Are those the ones that I saw this morning, Cindy? There.
They've all been responded to.
There's a bunch that are to be defined as their progress. It's more a case of knowing when there is something to be defined, will that be shared at a later point when information becomes available?
So is that sorry, I'm not being picky here, I'm just...
No, you're me.
So is that around the rebuild or is that around the stuff that I'm doing? I guess
it's around the rebuild parts of it. Because a lot of questions we get is around what's happening now.
Okay.
So just having that information shared more widely would be appreciated.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I talked about. I think being at the project team, I can prompt them along to make sure we get some more regular updates on where they're at and what progress is. Get some photos, get some more drone footage, some more regular drone footage if we can.
Yeah, I think for me, it's an initial thing of literally when's it going to go in the water? It's the new aerators and that's the big timeline. You'll want to see something that's physically happening. It's taken 8 weeks to get to this point. So obviously every week after that, they're counting on it. And we want to make sure our residents are getting looked after in that sense that action's happening and it can be conveyed quickly rather than just having to drive past and see it.
Absolutely taken on board. Yep.
Right, me.
Thanks, Gary. I know that in the last time you presented, we talked quite a bit about the community wellbeing response, and then in your response to Greg was about the health responses for residents. Yep. Are they kind of 2 and 2 together, or is there separate initiatives for those for resident wellbeing response?
Do you put your question one more time?
Just, I think we were talking about more so like people's mental health wellbeing,
Yep,
and I'm reading it as that the health is more about the levels that they're exposed to.
Oh,
How does, you know,
no,
are these gonna be two separate?
no,
things or-
they all wrapped, they're all wrapped together. And so that was one of the things we talked about was that someone who's feeling unwell physically and mentally, their GP at the moment is the portal to the help that's available, or Healthline. But those are things I will follow up, but it's definitely seen as a wraparound rather than two separate things.
And then my last question is just around the communication. So the newsletter that we received for the wastewater treatment plant, do people have to actively subscribe to that? So like is there a comparison of residents like that are subscribed to that compared to the number of people that like actually live in those affected areas?
So the only way to do it any other way would be mail drop twice a week, and that's a little bit unrealistic, to be honest. I do some mail drops for those that don't have computers that I've found out about. But no, you sign up to it, and then you get the newsletter. Yeah.
Just sorry, and add on to that is probably just what's the most common form of communication that you get from resident inquiries? Is that through like forwarded emails from council, or is that?
Probably comes through the call centre, or they have. It's quite quiet at the moment. Obviously, we haven't had much smell, and it's been great, and long may that last. But yeah, normally through there. I've had a few from the community centre where people have come in and asked questions and passed them on, and I've gone back to them. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Karen. One more question?
Yeah, just sorry. I mean, first of all, I just do want to thank you for the work that you're doing, Gary. I think it's really good that we've got one point of contact for people with a face and name and a number and
An old place.
Yeah, so thank you. I really do appreciate that. I was just wondering if there'd been any update from the Ministry of Education and what sort of feedback we've had from the schools.
So the Ministry of Education, and I haven't got to the right person, but the people before that have said they've had very little contact from schools and there are no concerns raised with them that's required them to do anything at this point.
But will we reach out to, I don't know when the next principal's breakfast is, but
we haven't got one scheduled, but it's on our list to do.
Do you think it'd be worth us approaching the schools directly?
And asking if they've got any problems.
And just saying.
From my viewpoint, I'd rather not. However, that would be your call as a board. That's what you want to do. And then I can do that if that's what you want me to do.
Or maybe it's just a case of us scheduling our principals meeting and then we've got that.
Yeah, and we the same when we had the last wastewater meetings, and any of those bigger updates with the last big event, we were sharing it directly with the schools, making sure that they were aware of, what was, well, obviously they were aware of the smell, but the things that were happening around it as well. So we were actively sharing that information with schools at the time.
I mean, I think maybe reaching out to Bromley schools probably warranted, just given the proximity.
Yeah, I do need to get across to Scott actually. Yeah, I'll do that.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. Yeah, and a second Yanni's sentiments around it. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you.
No.
You're Maggie.
Yeah.
Resolution.
Someone like to move that we receive the Gary's update. Moved by Kelly, seconded by me. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay, so we have a very brief item, I hope, on item number 9. We move it from Jackie. Do we have a second? It's a gifted name for a street. So
I'll second.
Seconded by Alex. Any discussion? We don't have any staff to report on it. It's simply a gifted name. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Now item number 10, which is the Marine Parade Bridge Street, which we've done. No, we haven't.
No.
Marine Parade Bridge Street. Sorry, it's still Bridge Street. Courtney is on Zoom.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions? Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. It just goes back to that other report that we had, but my recollection was as a community board, we had some sort of briefing around some significant traffic changes in this area. Are you aware of any other plans around parking restrictions, etc., in this area?
Not at this end of a marine parade that I'm aware of.
Cool, thank you.
Did you have a question?
I was going to say that there's potentially the eastern outer orbiter.
Yeah.
I think
Plan,
that's
you're
the one I
talking
was-
about gonna remove half parts on Bridge Street and half of them on Bogle Road.
Right. Was it this area?
Yes, and involves that area,
Right. Yeah. That was what I was thinking.
but it's not a definite, it's just.
So I think Councillor Donovan might have some additional information.
I think that original plan is still quite far from probably what the outcome will be. So I think it'd probably be a bit premature to say we're taking away car parking. Because we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. We haven't even seen the feedback, and the feedback I've had is not to progress those particular approaches. So I doubt as a board we'd want to do that. So yeah, I think it's a separate project.
So let's focus on that report we have today.
Also, can I just ask a clarification question?
Yeah.
I think if there are other projects that are happening in the area, it would be good at least to have some reference.
That's not a question, but yeah.
To them. So can I just check, like, if we either are aware of this work happening or we're not? I wasn't clear from the response.
Sorry.
Or proposed.
What are you asking, Courtney?
Well, in terms of like just the eastern orbital, are we looking at this area for that in whatever form it might take? Street markings.
So the Eastern Orbital is not my project. I have worked with Mike who's doing the work and the planning on that, but I'm not aware of this particular location being included, yeah, I'm not sure exactly about that at this stage. It's not on my radar.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for clarifying.
All right, do we have any questions? No, any questions? Does anybody want to move the staff recommendation then? Moved by Celeste, seconded by Kim. Put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So next is another one of yours, Courtney, the Pages Road no stopping restrictions, which have come from request. Moved by Jackie, seconded by Greg, thirded by Yanni. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Item number 12, so it's for Nick and Daisy.
Or Gemma.
Or Gemma, is it? Yeah.
Hopefully there's question back, Gemma comes all the way back.
Yeah, I reckon.
Kia ora koutou, ko Gemma Diomi Tokoinga. I'm the Principal Advisor of Transport Safety, and I'm here as Nick Reed today. I'm happy to take any questions if I can take the report as read.
Yes, you can.
I'm about to mute myself, but
Across the road.
Running.
I am happy to see you work on this intersection, which I drove through on the weekend on the way to catch no fish. But it was worth it. Does any further questions? Any questions? So moved by Kelly, then we were seconded by Kim, then by Greg. Okay, we'll put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Harry, I'm not going to make a habit of wanting to do it.
Nice to see you too. Take care.
So, yeah. Now we have item number 13, which is the Chelsea Street, the one crack, which I expect there'll be a few questions about. Now, we have been substantially briefed on this in the past, and it's been consulted on. And I think you can take it as read and see if there are any. So if you can just run through briefly for us just as a reminder as to why there were no changes made to the original proposal?
So the proposal was put out to consultation in March 2025. And we had a number of comments back. I think it was 22 in total. And you heard a number of people at made the deputations at the 11th of August meeting, 11th of August 2025 meeting. Now, after that, we were requested to come back to address some of the issues that were raised in the deputations and the submissions, which we did, and we addressed each of those issues at the workshop. Now, say the original submissions, there was both for and against. There was a few minor changes prior to us coming to you on the 11th of August for making sure that the buses could get round the corner, etc. So at the end of the weighing up of the proposal and the deputations, etc., and the actual purpose of this project to start with, it was not considered necessary to make changes because it was about slowing the speed of the environment to match the 30k speed limit that is posted in Chelsea Street. So it wasn't considered that we needed to make any of those changes, and the board asked us to bring back the report unchanged to the next available meeting, which is today.
And what is the trade-off involved? So there's 4 speed humps in there. And so why do we need 4 and not say 3?
At the workshop, we had Nick Reed, who is an engineer, with us, and he actually spoke about there's some ideal placings of the distance between speed humps to make sure that people don't race between one and the other, and that was part of the design.
And I'm doing this just for the benefit of the public before we make the decision. What would be the consequence of removing 1 or 2 of those speed humps?
Well, the narrowing, the speed humps are placed, 3 of them are placed whereby we also narrow the street with small build outs, 2 of which have got trees in them. 1 is actually very close to the intersection with Linwood Avenue. So if you took the speed humps away, the narrowing of the road would give a visual indication to people to slow down. It would probably make them slow down, but not as much as if there were speed humps there. So that's the trade-off, whether or not you really slow the speeds and calm the traffic there, or whether or not it's a partial slower.
And so instead of slowing down to 30, it would be slow down to 35 or 40 or something.
I don't know exactly what the difference would be. I know that where there are speed humps, that does slow traffic compared to where there aren't.
All right, well, that answers the questions that I had. Do we have any other questions? Danny?
Yeah, thank you. Are you able to sort of talk me through the difference between putting in a chicane versus a speed hump? Like, I know in the past that that's been something that residents have raised, is could we do, and some, like, and I'm not thinking of all of them, but like, could we make 1 or 2 chicanes rather than speed humps?
So again, before we came back to you for the workshop, Nick Reed looked at the option of what other options there were for instead of the speed humps, and chicanes was one of them. We don't actually have the space between the number of vehicle accesses to the private properties to actually achieve those within this part of the street.
If we just wanted to do the build outs without the speed humps, given that we've got some temporary speed humps and on other projects, is that something that we could consider?
Again,
like measure the speed and then look at coming with those alternative, with those lower cost options.
Yes, so again, we looked at the temporary speed humps, which, well, they're called cushions. They're the sort of rubberized cushions that can be put in. Unfortunately, they haven't performed that well, specifically for maintenance. And there isn't a lot of actual, I don't think there's really a cost saving between one and the other. So we're well, asphalt, I mean, to make asphalt temporary.
I think forgive me if I'm wrong, what councillor Hanson is suggesting is putting in the build outs without the speed humps in there. So you have the road narrowing, but you don't have the vertical movement. And whether that is a possibility.
If that's what the board would like to do, then yes, that is a possibility. As I say, the feedback was that you can have the road narrowing with the build outs, that will reduce the speed. It won't reduce the speed as much as if you had the two in combination. But yes, you could. If we went back though and did the build outs and then they came back and did the speed humps at a later date, obviously that's an added cost and disruption to the community, but I don't think that would be impossible.
So my question about that is around how, because it's the craft budget.
Yep.
If the contingencies weren't needed for the coal tar, which is unlikely given where it is, then maybe that would be possible within the budget. But otherwise, we'll be looking at spending more money at a later date if we were going to put them in if it didn't work. Would that be correct? Okay, sorry, back to you, Yang.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll come back to that, but do we have any of the places where we've put speed humps in? Have we seen in terms of the impact of having them, whatever distance in terms of this relationship with speed? Like, is there any data we have from the ones that we've put in around the distance between each speed hump and what the speed reduction is?
Not that I have. No. I mean, I could mention.
I haven't got that data, sorry, no.
All right, okay.
So I assume the laws of physics probably apply though. So in terms of that, the reason why we're given those numbers is because that's what the impact is on average across large areas around the impact of speed humps.
It definitely feels like we're getting, I mean, we could put speed humps, every couple of properties and, really slow the traffic down, but yeah, I guess it feels like we're putting more and more speed humps closer and closer together. But that's what I was interested in. But just a couple of other questions not related to the speed humps. One is, I note in the report that we engaged them all in November, I think.
Yes.
24 and February 25. Has there been any engagement over the past year? Because my understanding is they are looking at plans for redevelopment or for improvements. And I'm just keen to know what the latest is around that regard.
So we spoke to them all to start. When we first went more, they had literally just changed ownership. We provided them with our plans. They didn't provide us with any plans that they had at that particular time. But they did say that should that change, they would inform us. Nothing that was on our plans would interfere with their plans, they said at that time.
But we've got council staff working with them more on the redevelopment. Have we talked to those staff around in the urban development or building consents team?
No, I haven't, not recently. No. The access, there's nothing come through to change the access onto Cooper Street, from Cooper Street.
To be fair, like the redevelopment is in its early stages. There's no budget for any kind of major changes.
And they don't own Chelsea Street.
And it's not looking at that particular area, it's looking at the park and around that main road.
Oh no, so the resource consent that was there had massive tilt buildings along the length of Chelsea Street, which would you would assume would generate a huge amount of vehicles. If you look at the servicing.
When was it? Is that an old resource consent?
Well, I think it's I don't know if it's still current, but it was the one that was granted when they put the fast food places in And so there were actually there's a massive amount of development, tilt slab concrete quite high along Chelsea Street, which I presume will need to be serviced, because, you know, if you look at some of the types of malls, they generally have the services at the back. If you think about Superlink, Super Northwood, people know this, the buildings in there. Yeah. So okay, and just the final question for me was the whole issue of buses and heavy vehicles going through here. You've made some changes to the turning circle. We've modelled that, but again, like in practice, I'm just wondering how that will work. Just from like observation of, like, St. Asaph Street, for example, by the hospital in Hagley Park, you often see the heavy vehicles cutting the corner, and it's quite common to see them going over our curbs on a number of intersections where we're narrowed. So I'm just wondering how confident we are that will be adequate.
I say the modelling has been done, which shows a 14.5 metre, I think, vehicle, which replicates a bus coming around from Russell Street into Chelsea Street. And we've worked with ECAN on that to make sure that that is acceptable to them. What their concern is that the bus's wheels are facing forward by the time they get to the speed hump, so that it's more of a smoother transition over the speed hump. So we haven't modelled other vehicles, but they're unlikely to be larger than the bus.
Do we have any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you. I know it's been a long journey to get to here, and now it's time for us to make a decision. So you're welcome to take a seat back in the gallery.
Thank you.
Like to move. You'd like to move? Do we have a seconder for that? Moved by Megan. No, seconded by Megan. All right, so we have a motion. Would you like to speak to that, Jackie?
I'd really like to see the Chelsea Street renewal go through. As someone who uses that area quite a lot, it is a rat race circuit, all right? So people going down Pages Road to Ward-Linwood Ave who want to avoid the traffic lights and going up to that intersection do cut down the side roads and race up Chelsea Street to the free turn. There are a lot of children in that area, especially when school is starting and finishing, because the school is just across Linwood Ave. And I also have door knocked Chelsea Street during the last election. And whilst there is people who do and people who don't want it, I spoke to more people that do want it than didn't. They may not have made submissions. But for me, this is the right thing to do for the street and to uplift the area around Eastgate Mall, just to make it nicer, stop those, I mean, I am one of those people who cuts through and goes around the back to avoid those lights. I do try to do it at 30k, obviously, because, I'm a law-abiding citizen. But there are a lot who don't, and we do have a very high prevalence of, when I say, poor driving skills in Linwood, where people are speeding a great deal. A lot of younger people, especially when they take these shortcuts, there's a lot of speed, and I would like to see, firstly, our people being safer, and secondly, improving the amenity for the area. Thanks.
Going to agree with Jack, and it'd be nice to have some upgrades around Eastgate Mall, given all the different social behaviours that have been happening, not just lately, and probably just to get the works up and going with the increasing price and cost things. For us to delay it anymore might just increase that. So support.
Yeah, still struggling to decide whether to support this or not. Essentially, I think the changes to the road are good, the narrowing, etc. I'm no fan of speed humps because people in my area overwhelmingly tell me they're frustrated by them. However, this is not my area, and Yeah, I think it definitely will slow people down, being speed humps, but it will also frustrate a lot of people who drive at the right speed. I don't think they're a great option. I think they're a lazy way of slowing everybody down, even law-abiding people who wouldn't drive too fast. So ambivalent as to whether I'll support this or not, but we'll hear what others have got to say or not.
All right, I'll speak in favour of this. And there's no, this is the thing, there's no perfect solution, and they the ways that weren't in people call who were lazy. I've until recently I had a very a neck injury, and if you look closely, I've got a scar on my neck, and did not enjoy going over speed humps at all. No, the point of speed humps though is that nobody likes going over them, and it's unfortunately when we have lots of cars on the road and we have lots of pedestrians in an area, and we have a small group of people who drive too fast, but actually we all know ourselves that when you drive down a big wide street, and Chelsea Street's a big wide street, it's not that long, but it's very wide, and it also desperately needs renewal. The footpaths need renewal, the road needs renewing, the curbs need renewing, and all that's going to be done. So it's not just the speed humps. And let's not let the speed humps detract, which is the contentious bit, detract from all the other stuff that everybody supports going in. But we don't have any perfect solutions, and I would rather that put in the speed humps and see what the outcome is than to try and come up with a solution which ends up costing a whole bunch more money. And this is a one-off grant. It's not actually coming out of rates. It's coming out of the CRAP fund. I think it might be our last remaining CRAP project.
Yay.
And this is an area that should have been renewed about the time of the earthquake. And wasn't, so now we get to do it. So I'm very enthusiastically in favour of this, but also willing to say if it doesn't work out well, that I got it wrong. Yeah, right. Anybody else wants to speak? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate the work that staff have done on this, but I won't be supporting it today. I'll be abstaining because I would like more information. And I've said this from the start of this project, but we've got an MCR route that's coming from Pages Road, where we're not even allowed to share with the public where that proposed route is going. But I can tell you it's not going to Eastgate, which I just think is unbelievable. But when I look at the map from Eastgate to New Brighton, what's really obvious is that actually there could be amazing cycleways that connect the mall to a community that uses it. And yet in these plans, and you can see in the response, we're told that there's no money for the cycleway connection. To me, it just seems like this would be, if you look at the bigger picture, got a Linwood regeneration plan, which has taken, unfortunately, longer than we would have hoped. You've got a mall that's about to redevelop, and I'm quite heartened by the new owners of the mall, but I haven't seen the plans that they're proposing. I have seen the previous plans, which were, as I said, large tilt slab concrete buildings right along the edge of Chelsea Street, which would have all sorts of issues and impacts, I'm sure, let alone generate a whole bunch of heavy vehicle traffic. But yeah, to me, the timing's wrong on this. I think there's some safety improvements that we could make, but I don't think we need to do the whole thing now in the absence of that bigger picture. I think to spend money in this area at the moment, absent of the plans for the mall redevelopment, absent of the plan for the major cycleway that should be connecting this area, it's just not good timing. And I prefer to see an alternative option, particularly around the speed humps as well. Overwhelmingly on the doors when I was knocking in the election, people did raise concern around the impact of speed humps. A lot of elderly people raised it when they were going over them, and I also heard from people that call public transport. And I was just wondering for the public transport issue. I'm really optimistic a day will come when we will see a redesign of this mall that will include public transport going through the middle of it, because it used to, and someone gave a consent where they could change a whole bunch of stuff that didn't really seem to prioritise public transport. But I'd love to see this mall become a destination where we've got buses that go through it rather than around the side of it. And some of these changes that I think we're making will impact on adversely on the PT. So appreciate the work that's gone on. I just think there's a bit more work that needs to go as you look at the bigger picture before we approve it. So I'll be abstaining.
Anybody else wish to speak? Greg, Jackie has a right of reply. If you want to take it, Jackie.
Yep, supportive on what Yoni said there around the timing of things, and also what Paul said around there's so many great pieces to this. With that all said though, to me, I would like to have done something completely opposite of what I usually do, which is seen it done in two parts. So normally I want to see things done once, done right, but my instinct here is to not put in the speed bumps where the build outs are and only have the one down by the road. That way we can trial it, see what the difference is made by that as a stepping stone. If there isn't the sufficient change, they can be added at a later point. But for now, that's my opinion. So I'll be voting against it for that reason.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Please.
I mean, it's always good. I think it's good that we take the time to consider these things because once again, it's just not a perfect solution. But I tend to think that, you know, the main thing is looking at the overall positive and the gain here. And I think getting investment into this community is really important. In terms of speed bumps, I'm going to put a controversial opinion out there. I quite like them. But what I don't like is when you have single speed bumps, because having got one, having experienced what it's like to have a speed bump nearby, what happens is people do speed up. So they do actually need to come in pairs. So my perspective is if you're going to have them, maybe don't have 100, but you need at least 2 and they need to be spaced appropriately. So that's just my personal experience. But anyway, I'm just going to support this because I think it's important to progress something in this community, and if it doesn't work, we can make some tweaks later on. I kind of think progress is key, and sometimes we can't find perfection. We probably won't here, unfortunately.
Thank you, Celeste. Alex.
Yeah, I think it's important to focus on what we're dealing with here. And look, as elected members, we can have differences of opinion. I think for me, I think it's important that we deal with this now rather than coming up with, we need to look at this. There will always be changes to the Bulla Eastgate. There'll always be changes to the area around it. And by delaying it because of something that we've been shown yet would be a bit of a concern to me. So I'll be supporting this.
All right, thank you. I think that is... Yeah, no right reply, no further. Okay, I'll put that now. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right.
No.
So that's 5 in favour. So can I have a show of hands? Sorry, just to clarify. So all those in favour? Sorry. Can I? All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
You can see the show of hands.
Yeah. Okay, 6. Right,
Johnny abstained.
And abstentions. All right. Now with Botendo, it's going to be all noted anyway.
You'll see it all lovely
Yeah.
and pretty on the website
Yeah.
tomorrow.
All right. So thank you. That is carried. All right. Thank you for that constructive debate. So now we move to the Brighton Mall upgrade. Which. So. Thank you, Madam Deputy Chair. So obviously with this, and you would have got correspondence from an affected business, and if you can touch on that, that'd be great. Pardon, what was that? Well, you're happy to move that? Do you have a second?
Happy to second.
Okay, so obviously, so I'll check before I ask you to answer any question. I'll see if there are any questions. Yes, there's questions. All right. So Greg and then Kim.
Sure. That's very much really hard work on, isn't it? It's been a long time coming. We've had a good long time to think about this since the briefing that I had a wee while back. Read all the submissions, plenty of them, so that was receive those. I do have concerns around the shared space, taking it from the pedestrian wall into that shared space area. And I have those concerns because I don't really want to see this becoming a shortcut for those that are on skateboards and cycles and, it's just going to be something, because this is actually a community space. So, which is quite different to say Cashel Mall, where it's not. I mean, we have events in this space. And it's only, when I went down there to step it down this afternoon, we're only talking about 65 metres long, 25 metres wide.
115 metres long.
115 metres long, sure. And then it just keeps repeating 65.
Oh, that's
in the report.
That's to do with the Marine Parade, where from the intersections of Beresford and Hawke. Yeah.
Sure. So just from that point there, right? So just given that, I do have concerns about safety, and I do have concerns about the monitoring when we shift it from one to the other. Like for businesses, like for the market, the businesses, there's going to be no monitoring. We know that, and so when you provide entitlement to a certain wheel groups, you know, the speeds sort of get out of hand. I totally support the speed reduction from 30%. But I've just really got concerns around that whole thing being shared. Otherwise, we're going to have people from the market trying to be running around saying, hey, get off your bike. And I'm going to say, well, I'm allowed to. No, this is fine. Whereas at the moment, being a pedestrian piece, people still, like if a kid's on a skateboard, no one's going to go, excuse me. You know, they're just not going to do that. If someone's being respectful with their bike and they, you know, just wander on through, we're not excluding that part of the community. We want them to come and encourage them to come. But to ask them just to hop off their bike or their skateboard for that particular area, I don't really think is a problem. So that's just the shared space thing there. The questions I have are sort of just some basic ones about the seating, like the existing seating. Are they going to be removed and reinstated somewhere in the mall, or do they remain?
They will all be removed.
Sorry.
All the seating, the kind of like a standard park bench, they will all be removed because they're actually all in really poor condition and need to be replaced.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah, a lot of them are bent and are missing timber. Some of them have been graffitied recently. They're all in pretty poor condition. All the blue powder coatings come off most of them.
I was just thinking if they could be repurposed, maybe somewhere along the course, we check.
Anything that's in okay condition, we can definitely give to the parks unit, and they reuse those seats all over the show. So we can definitely ask our contractor to save anything that's in decent condition.
That'd be good, because the playground area on the beach could probably deal with a little bit.
I don't know whether they'd stick them in retrospectively, because they need the way that they're installed. They're sort of installed right into concrete, so they basically need to be gassed off. So sometimes it's very hard unless you're digging them out and taking the foundations, and they would go quite well in somewhere that's quite sandy, but somewhere that's an established and has already got concrete or asphalt would be quite hard to retrospectively put.
We'll look at it.
Yeah, but we can look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also the plants on the palms.
We can retain those, and they won't go necessarily on the seats, but they'll go in the concrete foundation around the bottom. So essentially like they are now. So we can retain them if there's a desire to retain them.
Yeah. Say so, because they were gifted.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Great.
We can do that.
Bronze. The bollards, you've got bollards. I'm just thinking about, there's lots of signs. It's really nice being this as a recreational area, beach area environment. Quite nice not to have signs all over the place. On the west and the east side of the mall, the bollards work quite well. Well, there's one missing in the middle, so cars can't get through it. But bollards work really well. I see there's some bollards on the west side. But if they could be, is that not enough? Just to say, well, obviously cars.
So the
pop-up bollard, sorry, I'm talking about
the pop-up ones. Yeah. So as you drive, if you're driving up Seaview Road this way, you've got the curve of the road. There'll be 2 drop-down bollards there that will be essentially, we'll remove 2 of the permanent ones that are there at the moment and put 2 drop-downs, and that will be how the delivery vehicles access the mall. And then the ones that are at the Marine Parade end, we don't actually need as many with the new seating because it closes that gap up a little bit more. So they'll all be drop-down ones at that end as well.
That's great. So is there the necessity to have the sign?
We need the signs for regulatory reasons. The shared zone, the 10 kilometres, the one way, and the shared zone. So we do need to put those on there. Yeah.
Thank you. Plants. Yeah. I think that's I think we do need to keep in mind the RMAV extension, which is good to know that you've kept the design, you know, just butting up to it, so that we can, doesn't impede anything going on there. But yes, I do really, have concerns around that shared space. It's something that we could look at later. I know that would come with a bit of an extra cost. But I do think it's going to be problematic for businesses in the area.
Can I answer that about the shared zone? So part of the reason for changing to the shared zone was basically to formalise how the mall's being used at the moment. So we've been down there on a number of occasions, and there's cyclists and skateboards and etc. I've been down to the market. I did 3 or 4 drop-ins at the market, and sometimes people do turn up on their bikes, and that is quite painful. The shared zone, one of the main purposes of the shared zone was to make it so when the redevelopment happens along the mall, and if times needed to be changed. So at the moment, we're proposing that it's open from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. If that needed to change in the future to say 10 a.m. if we're having issues, then it means that it's much more agile for the board to be able to make those changes. If you keep it as a pedestrian zone, which doesn't actually have a massive impact on our project, it means that you'd have to go through a massive consultation process, potential for hearings, will give people the opportunity to speak and go through that process just to make say half an hour change. So yeah, essentially the purpose of it was just to formalise, formalise how it's operating at the moment, acknowledging that yes, there is the potential for issues as you've described at the markets.
Yeah,
but hopefully common sense will hopefully prevail that they won't be able to actually get through there.
But I suspect that there won't be any behaviour change in response to it, because most people who are going to be riding through probably aren't paying that much attention to it anyway. Correct.
Yeah, well, we do need, we're trying to create, at this being a community space, we're wanting to create an experience, not a shortcut. So we've got to be very mindful that we're not putting people off coming to the market and events, because they're going to have to now be aware of these wheels.
Yes.
When you've got dogs and you've got kids, accommodate, and the area being quite tight. It's a bit of a worry. You don't want to put people off. So
the other issue is enforcement. So we're aware that no one's ever really enforced any of the rules. So whether there's going to be any difference if it was retained as a pedestrian zone, people are still going to be doing that, and it would be up to the police to enforce that. And they typically wouldn't.
Yeah, I suppose it would go from one issue to another issue. They get the odd one behaving as they should, but then when you've got the groups entitled to come along and do that, like I've got grandkids on skateboards, I know all about it, and fly off and hit an ankle, then not so good. But otherwise, it's great. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Kim. Greg, and then Celeste, and then Yanni.
The grating that's in the plan, shown in the plan down the sides, is that to be replaced or retain the current stuff that's there?
So all of the stuff that's there will be replaced, and it's got an increased capacity. It's almost double what the capacity is at the moment, and the tops of them at the moment are, I think, about 150, so they'll be wider. So similar to what's if you happen to be down there outside the old Penguin Arms, the Pierside building, it is going to be wider and similar to that, which they did for the Marine Parade upgrade.
Celeste, and then Yanni.
Thank you, and thanks for your work on this. It's been fantastic. Just there's a couple of quick ones. In terms of there's obviously lots of feedback that's come through, and I presume things like bin location, bike stand location, they seem to be quite common themes. Have they led to any changes in the original?
Yes. Yeah. Cool. So we've moved the market gave us some pretty good feedback on the bike stands that we had at the western end. So we've actually proposed that we put in 2 of the, I don't know whether you're familiar with them, but the liftable stands that we've put in at the other end of Ocean Alley, we're going to put 2 of those in at that end, so we can adjust the location when we get to the Aurum Ave works. We can move them temporarily so that we don't lose that capacity during that construction of that project.
I see.
Wherever that lands. But also it means that if it's not working in an area, we can move them.
Cool.
And adjust the location. And we've moved the bins from the same location. We've moved them, and there's now more bins closer to the Village Green sort of area.
Right, and in regards to the waste management strategy, because I remember that was a 20-person meeting, because it's quite cool. And did we kind of finalise that in terms of like coordinating for bigger events?
We haven't really progressed it too far, but all of the events have their own like waste minimisation strategies as part of that, and we are still having those ongoing discussions with parks about getting the coordination kind of happening. So
that's something we might need to pick up further down the track.
Yeah, and it'll be something that we'll be talking to with the transport operations team that runs all the bin emptying, etc. because they'll need to use this little wheelie bin truck that comes along now. Because we've increased the capacity on all of those bins, so they won't be able to just simply lift the bag out themselves. They'll need to use their lifting equipment.
They'll have access.
They'll have access, and we'll make sure that it's being done at an appropriate time of the day as well, so they're not driving down there at 4 o'clock or something like that.
Two final ones, the palms. Do we know yet they're able to be relocated?
So we're about to do some more investigations on that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We wanted to wait for the outcome of this meeting first before in case we did any damage to them, but the intention is that we don't. So we're going to, you may see just on the 2 that we are proposing to remove, they're going to do some investigative drilling to see, well, not drilling, but boreholes to see what their root structure is like, and then the arborists will be involved in that discussion. If we do relocate them, Parks has said that they'll consider Broad Park, that they haven't given us a exact location, but we're looking to have everything coordinated that if it is feasible, and we should know from these investigations in the next few weeks as to whether it is or isn't. It's a very long and arduous process, and there's no guarantee at the other end when they're relocated whether they'll survive, but they will take some quite substantial staking and management to make sure, because the last thing we want to do is move them to Broad Park and then they tip over, because they're enormous trees that are very top heavy.
I just want to just remind members that we're running out of time that is available, and so anything from this point on, anything that can be done offline or at another time would be.
I'll just ask the question very quickly and answer that. Around the license to occupy, your garden project raised that. Is it something, it's around the additional restrictions, pick up on Kim's point. Making a shared use zone, is there an opportunity to kind of look at putting restrictions in for big events to make it clear that that space isn't somewhere that we should be running through?
I need to look into that a little bit further, because I'm not sure how that would work from a signage and whether people would actually notice the signage. It might be something that has to go up for like temporary signage that I have no idea whether it's feasible or not, but maybe some temporary signage that we can give them. I'm not sure. We'll look into it.
All right, Yanni and Kim, but just a reminder of what I just said before.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the risk mitigations. I really enjoyed reading that section of the report and looking at the considerations you've given. One of the risks identified is that the development actually damages the new infrastructure that we've put in. And I'm just wondering if there's any greater mitigation we can do around development. As you go around the city, you'll frequently see curb cut downs that haven't been replaced with curved channel, damaged roads, footpaths from new development. Is there anything bespoke that we're looking to do here that not have that happen?
So we're working really closely with, I don't really know, Andrew Wheely and Kelly Rowe. They're the case managers. Kelly's recently taken over this area from Andrew, but she's working really closely with all the developers out there, and we will be seeking to have agreements in place with them that anything that is damaged is part of them. They have to rectify it.
Right.
So I'm not 100% sure on all the exact tools that we have for that, but I know that they've had lots of issues in the central city that they've been working through, and I think getting better agreements in with the developers up front is the best way forward. Something signed in writing, to say that we are responsible for this.
So just so I'm clear, the proposal is to have cars going through?
No.
So there's a photo of a sign that's got a car on it.
So the shared zone is essentially to change it to a shared zone, because at the moment with a pedestrian zone, both cycles, skateboards and scooters are not allowed to access it. So part of it is changing that. In terms of vehicles, it will only be delivery vehicles, service vehicles for like emptying the bins and emergency services. And it'll be prohibited, like access will only be between 5 and 11 a.m. So it's not, very much so like City Mall.
Right, but it's not going to be like Oxford Terrace and Worcester Street where people just drive and.
No, so no like public access, so we couldn't go down there ourselves and drive in.
And I just have to ask the final question, given what's happened with the new stadium, but have you done any hostile vehicle mitigation considerations? I'm just mindful of the significant costs that we had to put in the central city, but also now with the new stadium and the risk assessment. So just looking at this and I think we've got some bollards on the road, but is there any risk around that we would have to increase the budget and put in additional measures?
Not at this stage. We are getting a safety audit done at the moment. So that will probably, that may bring something up. We have had several internal discussions about it, and the bollards, so at this end of the mall, at the western end of the mall, the bollards that are there are quite substantial concrete bollards. We're only replacing 2 of them to make them drop down so delivery vehicles, etc., can go through. So those ones are pretty robust. In terms of at the other end, they will be the drop down ones, but we haven't had any feedback from anyone so far that we would need to increase them to like a hard, I'm not sure what the right terminology is, but yeah, to that level. But yeah, that's probably something we can look at through the detailed design.
Okay, it's just that I'm mindful that will blow the budget out.
I don't think we'd need to go to the same level as they have around the stadium.
The stadium is obviously much larger.
It's probably that's still much the equivalent, where you've got, I mean, probably not. I mean, if you think about the people on a hot summer's day, go to the beach, the number of events, the festivals that we have. So I don't want to add cost to the budget, but it would be just good to know what our strategic thinking is around that sort of risk.
Okay.
Cool. But thank you for the work.
We'll consider
like I
that.
said, really enjoyed the report.
Last question from Kim.
It's only just about the recycling as part of our rubbish.
No, we don't. They have trialled it several times, but if the contamination level is more than 10%, it has to go to landfill. So you might feel like you're doing the right thing by putting it in the bin, and then council gets sort of seen to be dumping it into the red bin or the refuse. So we would love the community to be in a position where we could recycle, but at the moment all the trials have had the contamination levels too high.
Just one quick, and Wi-Fi is really necessary.
We're not having Wi-Fi. No
Put it in
Wi-Fi.
the
No.
somewhere that.
Oh, in the original consultation, we did look at it, but our IT unit and Smart Cities have said that it's not feasible in this area. Yeah. So we've removed it. Yeah.
Right. Well, we have a motion on the table that's been moved and seconded.
Yeah, I mean.
Yep. So we'll I'll put that now. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know we were out of time, but
We were.
a big milestone. So
Oh, you want to speak to it?
I'll be there. 15 seconds at least. I just want to, is it okay?
Yeah, I think. Happy to move suspend standing always allowed to speak.
Well, yeah, I'll just use my discretion to ignore what I just did. So I'll allow the mover and seconder, but we don't.
Okay. So just very quickly, I just want to thank again staff for the work that they've done on this. I know you've put a huge amount of, you've gone above and beyond, and I really appreciate that. And the consultation process, I think, has been really thorough. I also want to thank the board for their support. I think this is one of the big projects that as a board we've been working together on, I think very constructively. So it's really great to see it reach this point. And I think it's also a very big milestone for our community. If you think prior to my time on council and community board, you know, people were working on this many years ago and sort of acknowledge the work that everybody else has done prior to this board getting us to this point. So just want to say this is such a good milestone and really excited about the next chapter for them all. I think we're on to going bigger and better things every day, so it's really exciting. Thanks for letting me break the standing orders.
And I'll allow the secondary and anybody who wants to speak against. Alex.
Thank you. Look, I just want to firstly acknowledge the community, because as you pointed out, Celeste, this is a huge milestone. I was talking to my dad about it last week, and he said, "Oh, we've been told time and time again it's going to be done. This time's no different." But really, walking through that mall already, you can see it's a significantly different space. You've got the community green, you've got the Martini development going in, and now you've got council working on this. So I wanted to acknowledge staff. I also wanted to acknowledge the groups that have been working in that space whilst the mall's been quite dilapidated, the likes of the New Brighton project and the local businesses who have kept that space really energetic and vibrant for our community for a very long time. I mean, it's not just been since the earthquakes, it's been longer than that. But lastly, I did really want to particularly thank Celeste for getting the funding across the line, because this is a huge step. And as a councillor, I'm really stoked that she could do that, and that we've got a council that's willing to back the east side in a project like this. So
I'll open it by saying this has been, this is 50 years, almost 50 years since that New Brighton lost the monopoly, and so it is a really Really awesome. All right, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against,
Happy to move.
carry.
My mic is muted, but I was an I.
We've got two,
Yeah.
we've got, so I think Greg has offered to move, items 16 and, so 15, 16. 15, 16, do we have a seconder?
Oh, you can do one if you want.
So hold on, let's sort out, so who has seconded it? It's moved, items 15 and seconded by Kelly. All right, okay, so we have two motions on one joint motion on the table. Yanni, a question of Rory?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Kawai and Tahe, and they do really good work, but I am incorrectly concerned at a high cost of the movie night versus the number of people that are attending, and whether we've looked at alternative ways to do it, you know, maybe in a hall or maybe in a, yeah, I just, like, this is, I think, the second year in a row we've had a request for a screen, and I understand the importance of having the LED versus some of the other technology I've had in the past, but have you got any reflections on just, yeah, the value that we're getting from this, and whether there's a way in which we could do something to either increase the attendance or look at more cost-effective ways?
Yeah, so they so in terms of increasing attendance this time round, they have went to letterbox drop as opposed to trying social media. So they've tried to be a much more localized campaign for these events to try and increase those numbers. In terms of the costs, they've found this company here that provide the LED screen, which is about $1,000 cheaper than the previous provider. So they have tried to figure out ways to reduce those costs. The challenge obviously being that if they don't have that screen and it's windy or something like that, then it really does impact the ability to deliver the event. So sometimes it can just be a bit hit and miss. So yeah, they have been trying ways to change the numbers in terms of attendances for this event in particular. So I guess this one will kind of, or sorry, they've got one on Thursday, which they're trying to change the marketing to figure out how that works for that.
Right, okay, and I mean, do you know what the attendance figures have been for the previous events?
Not off the top of my head. Again, I know that there's been a couple that the wind, I think the last one they did, the wind was pretty high with the inflatable screen, kind of almost made the movie unwatchable. But yeah, certainly there's been a couple that haven't been well attended. I know there was one in Bromley that wasn't too, you know, I think there was maybe 10 or 15 people showed up. Like the original ones that have happened, there has been, you know, 100 or so people that have shown up to them when they've got them right.
Right. Kim?
Great area report, thanks. I'm just wondering.
Oh, not the area report, we're just doing the funding.
Oh, sorry, long day. Sorry.
No more questions, I'll put that now, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And so now onto area report, which is over to you, Chris, if there's anything you want to draw to our attention.
No, not specifically. Happy to just take some.
Yep, question from Kim.
Thanks. Could we just, would you mind adding the Duke, right, the Duke Festival tour report? Around here, it was amazing. Thank you.
The next one.
Yeah, we can look to have that.
Do we have any further questions? No? Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you again to the staff team and for all the work that you're doing. And all the effort that goes into it. Yeah, we're very lucky. All right, in that case, let us go to members' information exchange.
Just to accept and receive the report.
Oh, sorry, we'll receive the report. Moved by Greg, seconded by Kim. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And now members' information exchange. Is there anything that anybody feels compelled?
Sorry, next time.
No, sure. Okay. You're compelled? Go, Yanni.
I just wanted to update the board that there's no timeframe for the landscaping to happen around the Port Lake development. And the community are pretty disappointed that they just there's no clear timeframe. So I did wonder if the board could actually invite the staff working in that space to actually come and brief us over how that's occurred and what the plan is to rectify it going forward. Because, you know, personally, I think it would be sad for other communities to have the same experience. I know you had a traffic intersection out of a subdivision concept, I think that took a while. But it would be good just to understand, how we can actually improve, because I think it is unfair when we see development that the community just have to suffer, and even when things it's going to be done, there's no clear time for us for it.
So I'm happy to have that noted down.
I think I've circulated that to the board, that response, but just wanted to pass it on so people were aware.
Thank you, Yanni. Kim?
Just in regards to the correspondence with South Shore Residents Association that we received today around the bays. Thank you, Cindy, for passing those concerns and things on to.
So the board got the correspondence about the bus stop.
But I didn't see
So
anything
around the
about
bays one, they sent it to me directly and copied in you and Celeste.
Right, okay.
So
Would we be able to send that?
absolutely.
Thank you. And also, I just think great that it goes to the event management team, but I think to really help South Shore Residents Association appreciate that that all parties sit in the same room together to sort of answer these questions and go through. So it's really helpful for the events team to say this is what we need, council to be able to say, well, this is what we can and can't do, and residents to be able to share their concerns about what is happening rather than just perhaps forwarding.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that's how the process works. So the event is organised by an external body and they apply to us for the road closures. We don't hold that. We can't tell them yes, no, maybe on what they're doing. So as I've advised, I have indicated during the last road closure that they should include the South Shore residents as one of their key stakeholders. And I have passed that on to the events team to pass on to the event organisers. So whatever responses I'm going to get back, I will share with the board and the Residents Association. And if arising from that, because it's going through the events team and the TMP and the external organisers, that if they think some processes need to change or whatever, then that will come from that. I don't think it's for us to tell them or South Shore to tell them their process, But absolutely, we'll do my best to try and get a reasonable outcome for all involved.
Thanks, it's really appreciate that. And I was just having a wee look through the council agendas, and tomorrow I see that the policy planning committee have coastal hazards adaptation planning there too to next. So just wondering if we could be, we'll obviously going to get a briefing, I'd say, as to perhaps whatever that was in that paper, but also to about timelines potentially. South Shore are really concerned with engaging no time soon with adaptation planning until the exterior is well understanding the exterior is completed. So just making that note today.
So what was that about? Sorry, Cam?
About coastal hazard adaptation.
Yeah.
That where to next and who next is on the agenda for council tomorrow.
Right.
So and part of that is that the first phase is obviously going to be other areas, Banks Peninsula, Heathcote around that way, and then South Shore, and that is the second phase. But the timing of that second phase, we don't want it to be, South Shore is saying we can't cope.
It'll be ages.
With that now. So if it's years, great, because that means these streets will be finished, but we just need some clarity on that. So give them some peace of mind.
I mean, I forget how long it's taken to do just the Littleton Basin, but it'll be longer probably to do the Taylors to Wilson if that's what happens.
Yeah, the report does say that the staff want to expedite things.
Yeah.
Everything's up. What that means, we don't know. Thank you.
So, but yeah, keen to have clarity, I agree. So if unless there's anything that anybody else wishes to raise, we will close the meeting. Very good. Yep. Tina,